Hi, good morning. Tuesday. It's Jim from the maverickstar Observatory. I'm probably doing what you guys are doing right now, trying to work out where we're going to go from here, what's going to be the best strategy. I'm not talking about with regards to what's happening here at the observatory, because that's always pretty much clear cut, but it isn't where I earn my money from. I mean, I generally earn my money from buying and selling a few cars. Before Christmas I was working for a chemical company supplying agricultural industry here in the UK. Those big sacks or hippo bags of potash and things like that. But I got out of that just simply because I couldn't handle any more of the whinging of these farmers that claim to be poor, but generally they are very wealthy. I don't think they consider wealth in the same manner as what we do. They never seem to spend it and always seem to get the very last drop out of anything that they do spend it on. So if it's on equipment, they run that equipment pretty much into the ground. But even their industry is suffering as a result of this current climate, the agricultural climate. Here, putting the observatory aside, we sold nothing for about 2 months now, going on 3 months, and pretty much just surviving on what we can scrape and scrimp together here at the observatory. For instance, last month I was making Clydril silver generators just to raise a few extra bucks here. There is more costs now with regards to the observatory than there ever has done. That's simply because we do more. And if you expand, it's going to require more time. So I don't mind particularly right now just living month to month and just about getting by, because I'm sure that that's the situation for the majority of us. So this morning I woke up, just trying to get some foundation on all what's taking place right now, and I was looking at a documentary with regards to these airline companies that are going bust. And one in particular is Virgin Atlantic. I know they've got their Australian division as well. Virgin Australia, is it? Something like that. But they are going into receivership, I think, if I managed to get that out of the documentary. The Australian part is, and we could also see, major effects happening with Virgin Atlantic if they don't get some government support, which they've asked for. But, if I asked you the question, do you think we should support this British airline company and some of the other airline companies? You'd probably say yes. They employ more than 10,000 people. These are real people with mortgages. They've got bills just like the rest of us. It's not fair that something like COVID-19 can come along and just, destroy that. But the point is this, and I do understand from some of the government MPs that have already vetoed Virgin's bailout package, which means he hasn't got his wishes, what he asked for before March. And the reason for that is, and it's quite understandable, is because one of the MPs turned around to him and said, you haven't paid no taxes here in the UK for the last 14 years and you're asking for a bailout from the taxpayers. When you know that, it's pretty obvious that you can understand why the government vetoed him and declined his bailout package the first time round. He has asked now for a loan, and because the reason why he asked for a loan is because they said to him, look, your net worth is worth £4.5 billion, and his claim is that it's all tied up in assets, and he's asked for a £500 million loan now, and he's prepared to put some of his assets on the line, including his Caribbean island, to underpin that loan and give some reassurances to the banks that he's obviously, or the government, that he will pay back that money. But it's not just Virgin Atlantic. This has affected all these airline companies around the world, and it's not just that I was watching. It's not just airline companies. The biggest problem they are finding is that you cannot social distance yourself on an airplane, especially when a lot of these flights like Ryanair are economy class, and he squeezes an extra chair in on the the row, so you're probably sitting four abreast on the left side of the aisle and on the right side of the aisle, and on some of the bigger aircraft there are more seats than most other airlines, and that's how he brings the costs down. But I do have some sympathy for these airlines in some respects, because, you know, even though you grounded your fleet of aircraft, it doesn't mean that the costs stop for you there and you've furloughed your staff. You know, these aircraft, even though they're sitting on the ground, have got like parts that need to be replaced, so the maintenance is still there required for you to keep these aircraft in a condition at least good enough to fly, and that means replacing, I believe, if I'm right, some of these parts only last a certain amount of hours on aircraft in any case and have to be replaced. So you've got that cost. You've got then also the cost of the airports charging you parking for your aircraft on the ground. And then you add in your maintenance staff and this, that and the other. You can imagine if 90% or more of your business has gone, then you're in a lot of trouble, because all you will have at the moment is money coming out of your account, as opposed to, you know, the analogy of a bucket with lots of holes in. It's okay having lots of holes in there if you can keep the water rate going in at the same as what's coming out. So, you know, right now they've got a bucket of water, you know, shooting spouts of water off everywhere, and the flow of water that fills the bucket back up has somewhat come to a stop, or coming to a stop. The other thing I looked at, guys, was the conditions of the world oil. And we know America has, you know, its dollar is based on the petrodollar. And, you know, if we look at Canada, one of its main major revenues is oil. You know, so, you know, how much damage is this virus going to cost the world? And there's another thing, a few other things that I've been looking into. I just wanted to share these because obviously we talk about a lot of the anomalies that are taking place, but this is something that really is affecting us, and I think it's going to change the way the world runs from, you know, the not too distant future. It's not just airline companies that are going bankrupt. It's not, and the implications that when these measures are relaxed. I mean, how do you social distance on an aircraft? I've heard one of the owners of Ryanair suggest that, you know, the best thing we can do is give people masks to wear throughout the duration of the flight. I don't think that's going to help. It's going to be better than nothing, and I love that. When, you know, you're faced with a dire situation, something is always better than nothing. But if you have underlying illnesses, that isn't a reassurance for you. I don't think anyone wants to sit on any flight right now, possibly next to somebody that has COVID-19, and if you have underlying illnesses and you're working for a company that requires you to travel abroad, then you are being put in somewhat unnecessary risks. Another thing that you probably aren't aware of is what's taking place recently in the South China Seas. America with Australia are doing back-to-back runs through this no passageway, which goes close to these Spratly Islands, because China have claimed this territory recently over the last few years as theirs, and they don't want at least the military sailing through these lanes. So America has said, we're not going to respect your views on this recent claim that you are now incorporating this territory into your division. We're going to use that as international law states we can, and maritime law, and we are going to use these shipping channels to, exercise the freedom of these oceans and the laws. So there is tension there, and with all what's happened recently already with China, you would think the last thing that China would do would be in a position to, bring any more trouble upon themselves. I think China have got some real difficult situations to face in the not too distant future. After all, there's been probably 200,000 people or more, or a lot more than that, die as a result of the failing to contain a virus outbreak, which has, crippled the world's wealth and, made a lot of people ill as a result of it. I don't know how you can get away with that scot-free. So, yeah, I'm just interested in how things are being affected with you. I know a lot of you have been floored. You're receiving 80% off the government, or your company's receiving 80% of your salary off the government, and in some cases your company is making up the other 20%, so that you are being paid to stay at home. There are some people though that are not. So for a lot of us, it's almost like a big paid holiday for the last 5 weeks. I mean, I fall in none of the categories where I get bailouts or anything, and we just heard from one of our organisations that we had applied for some funding for, told us that as a result of COVID-19, we were not going to get that funding that we had asked for in order to do our little, our little experiment with the CO2 meters involving kids at school. We're not going to get that grant at this point. They said we can reapply afterwards, but at the moment, most of the funding from these organisations is going into some deal to do with COVID-19, and that seems to be which is happening across the range now. So a lot of organisations. I was hoping to get that off the ground, because my idea with that, I'll just quickly explain what I was going to do, is get a load of those CO2 meters brought, get some books made, get these out into the schools, get the children involved in collecting CO2 data, so that they could make an unbiased decision for themselves based on the work that they've done. It was going to make it really easy for them, just do one reading a week, and you could pass this on to different classrooms and get them to do the readings. Basically getting these little people into science and getting them involved in collecting data. And we could have collected that data. We was going to do it just locally involving Warwickshire, and then later on expand it out nationally. And if it had been successful, we'd probably have then tried to get it internationally, because I think it's important that people do understand the truths with regards to CO2. And that was the way I was going to go about trying to do it. It wasn't something that was going to happen overnight, and you were going to inform all these little minds that are going to be one day, leading our societies for us. These are the new leaders, but, it was one way of trying to get them, gently encouraged into science, because I love science, and I think science is really important for us all. And sadly, we're not going to get that funding at this moment. So at least for the next 6 months, we are open-minded. I mean, I really don't know which direction to go from here. To take a job, to get some more money coming in, because cars ain't selling at the moment, that's for sure. With the only essential transport, people aren't using the cars, so cars ain't breaking down, so cars ain't going to be need to re-brought. And as a result of that, I mean, I fall in that situation through being self-employed, low earner. I can't. The only thing that I could do really is go and sign on as unemployed. That'd be the only way I could get some funding from the government, or in terms of bailout, like a lot of low earning self-employed people here in the UK. So, that's why I'm here in the morning at 7 o'clock, scratching my head what to do next. It's pretty much shut down everything, hasn't it, COVID-19. We've still got some work that we can do at the observatory. Doesn't mean that we can, we have to stop. Obviously, there is time which I can invest, and a bit later on, I'm going to be building the housing for the meal detector that's going out to Australia in a couple of weeks. We've got the kit ready to go for Brazil. We have got someone, I'll just say this, it's on the hook, it's not guaranteed, but he's just liaising with his family to see, if it's not too much for him to do, and it is within their capabilities. Because let's face it, we're not all tech-minded, and taking on board a couple of pieces of equipment from a little observatory like ours might seem like, real high-techy stuff, but it's an SD card, and obviously you need a computer to put the SD data on there and then get it sent out. I have got another two magnetometers at my disposal. I'd like to get one in Canada, so if you're interested in taking a magnetometer on in Canada, then do that. Just put it in the comment section, and I'll make sure I get that out to you. Okay, other than that, guys, we could really do some support here at the observatory. I'm not at the moment building any more silver colloidal generators, and that is because I've noticed that the postage has started to slow down. I'm not sure if we can get the pumps, so at the moment I'm not building any more of those until obviously things pick up a little bit, and then maybe we'll get a few more out to you if those of you out there are interested in that. And that is pretty much it, guys. I just wanted your opinion on how things were affecting you, and what are you doing in your situation to improve matters. Put it down in the comments. I always read them. So also, what I usually do, you take care. If you want to support the observatory, there is a link there. You can join us on Patreon, or just make a one-off payment on PayPal. But neither of them are compulsory. Try not to do the bullshit like a lot of other channels do on there. Because I would rather not sell you a hoodie in the merchandise section of this video. Because I don't think you need another hoodie or another cup or another fridge magnet. And a lot of people in here that want to donate because they want to help the observatory. Well, they don't want to help the clothing manufacturer or the pottery manufacturer at the same time. So, links down there if you want to support what we do. And, as always, guys, you remain safe, look after your loved ones, and, we're still here doing what we do, recording data on these anomalies for you. If maybe you've got time, pop over to the website and have a look what we've got on there. If you're interested in the Schumann resonance, we've got data on there for that as well as tons of other anomalies. We try and cover a lot for you. So, you'd be safe. Let's hope things get back to normal as quick as possible, and, our lives can return back to normal as a result of that. So, as always, bye for now.